Thank you, Count Corla. Taoiseach, I want to discuss CAP reform and in particular eco-farm schemes alongside convergence. Ireland is an agricultural country with the best farm producers of quality food in the world. Farmers over the years were encouraged to invest in good farm or in good faith that they were being progressive and that their hard work and the food it yielded was and still is recognised as the best in the world. They were assisted by Teagasc and other semi-state bodies to become gold standard producers. The Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP, was initially brought in to drive the agricultural sector to provide safe food, which is what they did, all for the benefit of the consumer, whilst applying the greenest methods available for the times we're in. Farming is the biggest indigenous rural industry this country has, rural Ireland's biggest employer, proud, progressive producers. Then what happens? This government pulls the rug out from underneath them. You agree to disincentivise the productive farmer by introducing convergence, to increase the payment of the non-productive farmer who has nothing to do but sit and wait for it to happen. Why is the government driving this policy? Do you not understand that some of those most affected will be the tillage farmers? Do you not realise that this is an anti-green policy? As the result it will achieve is to make tillage farmers non-viable and they will exit the industry. It may be that that's not your intention, but that's what will happen. The sector that we have relied on for carbon sequestering just given the biggest kick in the teeth imaginable and left wondering what it's all about. Whilst we're past preventing convergence, you must understand the consequences of going beyond 75%. You may believe in some misguided way that it will level the playing field to go further, and it will, but not in the way that the government or the EU expects. It'll level it in that you will make as many farmers unviable, because convergence, when combined with the proposal to pay eco-schemes on a flat rate per hectare, has a high risk of making more farmers unviable. Many farmers will see a reduction of 40% of their single farm payment combining both schemes. Count Corla, this just can't happen. Convergence and the new proposed eco-schemes are an attack on progressive farming. And what do you say to the next generation of progressive farmers taking over, all capable, willing and able to adopt to the greening of farming in Ireland? Come on in, but do your worst and we'll pay you more, because that's what it says. Come from the top to the bottom when everyone else in the world goes the other way round. Taoiseach, can you commit that there will be no talk of anything above 75% on internal convergence, and that the eco-scheme payments will not be in addition to the basic farm payment, not based on costs incurred and income foregone, which will be just another form of convergence?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
Well, first of all, I thank the Deputy for raising what is a very topical issue, as the Minister for Agriculture is in Brussels right now working on the Common Agricultural Policy. But of course, this government didn't introduce convergence. That's the first point. I noted in the Deputy's contributions it was all the focus on this government and the government. This is a centrally mandated approach across the European Union and from the European Council and Parliament. So it's an EU mandated policy. In the first instance, it's a system of redistribution of direct farm payment funds. It's been occurring now for half a decade. But it is a hugely emotive issue, and it's notwithstanding the fact that it's largely decided upon in Europe. Yes, there is room for negotiation of this and getting the balance right. There's room for negotiating as maximum a degree of subsidiarity as possible in implementing the proposal back here in Ireland. The Minister is seeking the maximum degree of subsidiarity to deal with this issue. The Minister for Agriculture supports the EU Council position that convergence should be in around 75% of the average. But we can't guarantee that by 2026. Why can't we guarantee it? Because the Parliament has pushed for 100% convergence. Now, maybe you could talk to Deputy McWallace, or sorry, not Deputy MEP McWallace, or some of the MEPs to try and focus and get the Parliament to maybe, reduce its ambitions in this regard. But they're pushing for 100%. The presidency, the Portuguese presidency, is putting forward compromises somewhere in between 75% and 100%. And the negotiations will continue around that. The government, since 2020, we've paused further convergence until the negotiations are concluded in Brussels, because we do understand the issues. There are winners and there are losers in the convergence process and programme. In terms of farmers who gain, I think up to 60,000 farmers would have gained, and if you throw in the greening aspects, would have gained, I think, up to 95 million. 65 without greening. Add in greening, it's about 95. But about 54,000 would have lost out. So it's a very, very difficult issue. So we are very conscious of it. The ministers are as well. Since 2015, all EU member states have used this method of payment. And just to say that from the government's perspective, we believe in food security. We believe in a viable, sustainable agricultural industry, in food production, and in food safety. And the Irish food production system is probably one of the most efficient, not just in Europe, but globally, and is constantly working to improve its emissions performance. And that's a broader debate as well within Europe. And we do want to see more opportunities for farmers to raise farming incomes around environmental programs and so forth.
Deputy Murphy.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. Thank you, Taoiseach. I'd be very concerned when you try to absolve the responsibility for dealing on behalf of the Irish farmers to the EU Council or of Ministers or whatever it is. What comes to mind is what my mother used to say: if they jumped in the river, would you? And I think the reality here is that the farmers of Ireland are depending on this government, regardless of when it began, to negotiate on their behalf, that convergence doesn't go beyond 75%. We see our fishermen having a protest in Cork today because this government and the previous governments have sold them out. There's absolutely nothing to be gained for rural Ireland from the way the government is carrying on. And convergence is one of the things that is, the eco scheme that I spoke about is another form of convergence. The Minister was on the radio this morning denying his own department figures that farmers stand to lose up to 32% of their basic farm payment. He denied that that was the case, even though those figures have been produced by his department. So I'd be very concerned that you're on the right road with the negotiations, and I'd ask you to do your best for what is our greatest asset.
Thank you very much. Taoiseach.
First of all, I just would point out to the Deputy that 19 EU countries are fully converged right now. Okay? Ireland isn't. Ireland isn't. I know, and only for successive governments. The Common Agricultural Policy wouldn't be as central and as strong as it currently is. Ireland has been one of the great defenders of the Common Agricultural Policy for many, many years at European Union level. Have fought along with a number of other countries, just a few other countries, to hold the line.
If they jumped in the river,
to hold the line in relation to food production, to the Common Agricultural Policy. And the Minister didn't deny anything this morning. He pointed out that there's a balance. Some win on this, some have gained. Quite a lot of farmers have gained from this. Quite a number of farmers have lost out because of convergence. That is the point that the Minister was making this morning. And we've got to look at other initiatives as well, in terms of environmental initiatives to increase incomes, basically, for farming, but also in terms of maintaining the backbone of the direct payments system, which is key to farmers. We understand that. It's absolutely essential as a backbone for farmers and to underpin their projections into the future and to underpin sustainability from an income perspective for farmers into the future.
We go now.